Hello everybody and welcome to another top 5 board gaming video. Today's topic is all about some of the best board game inserts that I have ever seen. This is a little bit of an offshoot to a topic I did some time ago where I talked about some of the best board game packaging in boxes, where in that one I was mostly referring to the actual physical shape of the boxes and how the boxes sort of reflected the theme of the game itself and how it sort of made the experience kind of more whole. In this case, I'm going to be talking more about what's actually inside of the box, how the insert helps you organize the game components and all of that kind of stuff, and some of the games that do it in the best way possible. That said, of course, you guys know I love to hear from you all. What are your personal favorites in this category? What are some of the best inserts that you have seen? Let me know anything and everything in the comments below. But with that, we are just going to jump right on in and get started with my number 5. At number 5, I've got Small World. Primarily, this game is on the list because there is a small tray for all of the individual little tile components that you have to have. It has a really nice little cover with nice little sections that you can put everything inside of. All of the other components where you've got the different race types and all of that kind of thing are kind of jam-logged inside of some similarly shaped structures inside of the rest of the insert. So that's why it's a little bit lower on the list, but having those little bitty tiles in their own physical location makes them so much easier to organize because they can be really frustrating when you have to grab all of them out. But again, that's why it's so low on the list, because the rest of the stuff can get kind of wonky. It's still good overall and a lot better compared to Mini. Small World, my number 5. At number 4, I've got Tokaido. This game is on the list for 2 major reasons. First and foremost, because you have a very functional insert. You have something that has really nice little compartments for all of the pieces. They're all sized perfectly so that you can fit everything in very nicely, and there's even a nice little indent for the board as well. The second major reason is because it really fits the aesthetic of the game. It is a very plain structure, but it has the very deliberate sort of carved out sections for these components and nothing else really needed. And with the game itself, you have that same sort of aesthetic of being very minimalistic, very simple, but something that is very deliberate, and I really appreciate that. That said, it's lower on the list because the fact is there are not a lot of components to this game, so the box is really big, mostly to accommodate the board, and so it's somewhat simple to create an efficient and good looking insert for this game. But that said, it could have very easily been screwed up massively as well. So Tokaido is my number 4. At number 3, I've got Scythe. This is primarily on the list for how the miniatures are stored. In this game, you have a decent number of miniatures comprising all of the different factions, and essentially they have their own little space, their own little section that have individual little pieces carved out for each individual miniature with a lid that goes on top of them. In addition, Stonemaier Games, the company, provides a lot of little baggies, and they also provide some smaller trays for some of the little chit pieces, so it makes it really easy to organize things after the fact as well. That said, there's no real specific sections that are kind of carved out, but the fact that they provide some really nice baggies and those little trays is very helpful for organization of both the cards and the individual pieces, not to mention the great way that they handle those miniatures as well. Very simple but very effective. Scythe, my number 3. At number 2, I've got Dice Forge. This is a really unique type of insert where not only do you have these very nice sort of cutout sections of the insert to fit all of the player components, but as well as the boards themselves. In addition, you also have the base of the box and the insert itself becoming part of gameplay. This is something that I had never seen before in games until I played this, and I absolutely love how it was integrated. You have everything fitting wonderfully well into the box, and you have this sort of extra little oomph when it comes to utilizing the insert during the gameplay itself, which is something that is fairly unique and that you really never see too often. But Dice Forge overall, great game, wonderful use of the insert, and a wonderful way to organize everything, and my number 2. At number 1, I've got Wasteland Express Delivery Service. This is a game that has a really interesting theme of essentially Mad Max delivering goods. But the fact is that if you read about board game inserts, then you will see a lot of people talking about this. A few people even mentioned it when I talked about my board game packaging video a while ago. And I started reading more about it, looking at some images, and I even got a chance to see some people playing it at my friendly local game store, and so I got to see it in person. Essentially, this game has all of their miniatures in these nice little trays that are organized by player color, so you can really easily just sort of distribute them out, and that's all you have to do in order to get the game going. It's super simple. The trays are reasonably good quality, which is kind of surprising for something like that, and it's just wonderfully well organized, and I absolutely love it. It's really an incredibly well done design. I think that it really goes to show that a lot of love was put into not only the game's development, but the actual idea of how it's going to reach the customer. And I think that's a wonderful thing for every aspect of the game development cycle to really be thinking about. But with all of that, Wasteland Express Delivery Service is my number 1. Well, everybody, that's going to be it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my top 5 favorite board game inserts. Like I said, this is kind of like the cousin to my board game packaging video that I did a while ago, but it is something that we often don't think too much about, and on top of that, it's something that becomes fairly underutilized. We have some games like Dice Forge that I mentioned earlier, where they actually utilize the insert as part of the game, and it's not something that you see super often, and I would love to hear what your guys' own personal thoughts are on this. Of course, there's a lot of great games that have wonderful inserts, and I would love to hear what your guys' opinions on it are, particularly in the context of, is it something you even care about? Or is the insert just something that you grab and throw away as soon as you open up the game and you just do your own thing as far as organization? Let me know anything and everything in the comments below, because you know I love to hear it all. That said, if you haven't done so already as well, please take a look at all my various social media pages, as well as my Patreon page. On all of those, you can interact with myself and my channel in a whole bunch of really fun and interesting ways. But that said, thank you so very much again for watching this. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.